Hi, and welcome back to the show. I'm Alex,
And I'm Dom.
and today we're going to be talking about Ed Gein, the infamous.
Serial killer, I guess.
Well, he's
He's only
technically not
killed,
a serial killer,
I know he's only killed two people, but
and but he's influenced a lot of movie serial
yeah.
killers that we're going to talk about. But Edward Theodore Gein was born August 27th, 1906, in La Crosse, Wisconsin,
It's a
United
long ass
States.
time ago.
Yeah.
I didn't realize it was that
He was
he was born
this
that far
yeah,
back.
yeah, absolutely. He was like, well, think of the movies he's influenced. Psycho was made in the late 60s, so
Yeah.
he had to be before that.
I guess, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
But still, God, I didn't think it was that long ago.
Yeah.
Huh.
He was the second of two boys, George Philip Gein and Augusta Wilhelmine. And Gein had an older brother named Henry George Gein.
Right.
Augusta was fervently religious and nominally Lutheran. She preached to her sons about the innate immortality of the world, evil of drinking, and her belief that all women, apart from herself, were naturally promiscuous and instruments of the devil.
Of course.
The water boy.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
that mom is is
It's based
based
on
off
his
of
mom.
Ed Gein's mom. Yeah.
That's funny.
She reserved time every afternoon to read to them from the Bible, usually selecting verses from the Old Testament and the book of Revelation concerning death, murder, and divine retribution.
Mm,
So, I mean, that was probably normal back then. Everybody read from the Bible back then. They didn't have TV.
yeah.
So that was their entertainment was every
Hmm.
night they would go and read the Bible by the fire.
Yep.
So it's not too bad. It's just she just skipped all the
Hmm.
good parts, I guess, and just
She's all about
focused
fire
on
and brimstone.
yeah. She focused on the fire and brimstone part. She hated her husband,
Oh.
an alcoholic who was unable to keep a job.
Yeah.
He had worked at various times as a carpenter, a tanner, and an insurance salesman.
Mm.
During his time in La Crosse, George owned a local grocery shop, but he soon sold the business and left the city with his family to live in isolation on a 155-acre farm in the town of Plainfield, Wisconsin.
Why?
Why
Why did
not? I
he?
mean, well, I mean, he was probably wanted to be a farmer, wanted
Yeah.
to live off the land. There's a lot of people that are like that though, that just
Yeah.
want to live off the land. But 155 acres, that's huge.
Yeah, it's a lot of land.
Yeah. Which became the Geins family permanent residence. Augusta took advantage of the farm's isolation by turning away outsiders who could have influenced her sons.
Hmm.
So it might not have been his decision; it might have been hers. Geen left the farm to only to attend school. Outside of school, Geen spent most of his time doing chores on the farm. Geen was shy, and his classmates and teachers remembered him as having strange mannerisms, such as seemingly random laughter,
Hmm.
as if he were laughing at his own personal jokes.
So
Everybody
what's wrong
does
with
that.
that?
Yeah,
I
like
was gonna
everybody
say,
does that. Have you ever done that? Like just
yeah,
like
you just be
laugh. You
thinking,
think about
think of something
something, just
funny
laugh
and just
and
laugh out loud and not realize
yeah,
it. Yeah.
yeah. And I was like,
Huh.
haha. And people are like, what are you laughing
And
at?
back
It's
then,
like
anything that was
something.
different or outside
Yeah,
the norm was pretty
absolutely.
much unacceptable.
To make matters worse, Augusta punished him whenever he tried to make friends.
Oh, why am I not surprised this poor kid turned out the way he did?
Yeah. Despite his poor social development, Geen did fairly well in school, particularly in reading. So
Right.
he
Smart,
wasn't dumb. He was
smart kid.
smart. He was a very smart kid. Even though his mom was like trying to,
Keep him
yeah,
sheltered and
yeah.
uneducated, I guess.
So on April 1st, 1940, Ed Gein's father, George, died of heart failure caused by his alcoholism at the
Which
age of 66.
which left him with his mother.
Yeah, unchecked mom
Yeah.
with I mean, his dad was alcoholic, so he probably beat them,
Yeah.
but he never said anything about that. Henry Ed began doing odd jobs around town to help cover living expenses.
Hmm.
The brothers were generally considered reliable and honest by the residents of the community.
Right.
While both worked as handymen, Ed also frequently babysat for neighbors.
Ugh.
Yeah, which it's
Looking
kind of
in
weird.
retrospect
Yeah,
is
hindsight, it was
creepy.
like, wow, both. So he babysat, and he enjoyed babysitting. He really did.
I bet.
Seemingly to relate more to children,
Yeah.
easily more to children than adults, because his mom stipended him to be a child,
Yeah.
basically. Henry began dating a divorced mother of two and planned to move in with her. He worried about his brother's attachment to their mother and
Mm.
often spoke ill of her around Ed, who responded with shock and hurt.
Ah.
Sounds like his mom's a narcissist.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's definitely got him messed
Yeah.
up.
On May 16th, 1944, Ed was burning away marsh vegetation on the property. The fire got out of control, drawing the attention of the local fire department. By the end of the day, the fire having been extinguished and the firefighters gone, Ed reported that his brother was missing.
Aha.
With lanterns and flashlights, a search party searched for Henry, whose dead body was found laying face down. Apparently, he had been dead for some time, and it appeared that the cause of death was heart failure since he had not been burned or injured otherwise.
How old was he when he died?
Uh,
Not
I
sure.
mean, there's no record. I mean, I'm sure there's a record somewhere of it, but he
He probably killed
he
him.
probably killed him.
But if there was no,
An autopsy was never
I
conducted.
see.
There's
Okay.
no official investigation.
Assumed he died of
they
the
just
same thing his dad
dismissed
did.
the possibility of foul play and listed his death as asphyxiation.
He probably strangled.
Yeah, it was most likely it was a Cain and Abel kind of thing.
Yeah.
He killed his brother.
Probably badmouthed mom one too many
Yeah,
times.
and he killed him. He's like, "You're not talking about my mama." Gein and his mother were now alone. Augusta had a paralyzing stroke shortly after Henry's death, and Gein devoted himself to taking care of her. Sometime in 1945, Gein later recounted he and his mother visited a man named Smith, who lived nearby, to purchase straw. According to Gein, Augusta witnessed Smith beating a dog. A woman inside the Smith home came outside and yelled for him to stop, but Smith beat the dog to death. Augusta was extremely upset by this scene.
Yeah.
However, what bothered her did not appear to be the brutality toward the dog, but rather the presence of the woman.
Really?
Augusta
That's what she was mad about?
Augusta told Ed that the woman was not married to Smith, so they had she had no business being there, and angrily called her Smith's harlot.
Nice.
She had a second stroke soon after, and her health deteriorated rapidly. She died on December 29th, 1945, at the age of 67. Ed was devastated by her death.
Mm-hmm.
In the words of author Harold Schichter, he said, lost his only friend and one true love, and was absolutely alone in the world.
Yeah.
Now, he did a lot of stuff around the farm to earn money from hard job thing. He boarded up the rooms used by his mother, including the upstairs, downstairs parlor, and the living room, leaving them untouched.
Right.
Which like Psycho, the movie
Mhm.
Psycho, that's what that's based on. The mom's room was pristine
Yeah.
and everything. Bates Motel, like
Yeah.
all that never happened. That was Ed Gein's
Right.
story. While the rest of the house became increasingly
Squalor.
squalid, yeah, squalid, sorry. And these rooms remained pristine. Like, so basically the rest of the house
It's
looked like
nasty.
shit.
Yeah.
Hoarder Central. Like, he would have been on an episode of Hoarders.
Right. But except for his mother's areas, the ones
Yeah.
that she frequented.
So let's get into his crimes.
Yep.
Because, I mean, at this point, he's allegedly killed his brother,
Mhm.
but he hasn't committed any crimes. He's just a
Other
normal
than that,
child
yeah.
who's basically a mama's boy.
Right.
On the morning of November 16th, 1957, Plainfield hardware store owner Bernice Warden disappeared. A Plainfield resident reported that the hardware store's truck had been driven out from the rear of the building at around 9:30 a.m. The hardware store saw few customers the entire day. Some areas residents believed that this was because of deer hunting season.
Mm.
Bernice Walden's son, Deputy Sheriff Frank Warden, entered the store at 5 p.m. to find the store's cash register open and bloodstains all over the floor.
Mm.
Frank Warden told investigators that on the evening before his mother's disappearance, Gein had been in the store and he was to return the next morning for a gallon of antifreeze.
Mm.
A sales slip of a gallon of antifreeze was the last receipt written by Warden on the morning after she disappeared. On that on the evening of the same day, Gein was arrested at a West Plainfield grocery store, and the county sheriff's department searched the Gein farm.
Mm.
The sheriff's deputy discovered Warden's decapitated body in a shed on Gein's property, hung
Wow.
upside down by her legs from a crossbar and her ankles roped at the wrist and at her wrists.
Right.
The torso was dressed out like a deer.
Yep. That's the
Yep.
inspiration for Texas Chainsaw Massacre
Yep.
too. Well, partly.
Yeah.
Anyway.
She had been shot with a 22 caliber rifle and mutilations were made to her after her death.
Mm-hmm.
Searching the house, authorities found whole human bones and fragments, a waste basket made of human
Ew.
skin covering several chair seats, skulls on his bedposts, female skulls, some of with the top sewn off, bowls made from human skulls,
That is
a
disgusting.
corset made from a human female torso, skin from shoulders to waist,
Ugh.
leggings made from human leg skin, masks made from skin of female heads.
I bet there was a lot of fucking vomiting on the
Yeah,
part of whoever
it
had
probably
to go.
stunk so bad.
Yeah, probably had to go look at this stuff.
Mary Hogan's face mask in a paper bag, Mary Hogan's skull in a box, Bernice Warden's entire head in a burlap sack, Bernice Warden's heart in a plastic bag in front of Gein's potbelly stove.
Like he was gonna cook it.
Yep. 9 vulva in a shoebox.
Ugh.
Yeah. A young girl's
The
dress
fuck?
and the vulvas of 2 females judged to have been only 15 years old.
Jesus
A
Christ.
belt made from female human nipples, 4 noses,
Why would
a
you?
pair of lips on a window shade drawstring, a lampshade made from the skin of a human face.
Can you imagine if he hadn't been caught and he like legitimately tried to sell these?
I don't think he was selling them. He was like
He always
making them.
wanted to keep them.
Fingernails from female fingers. These artifacts were photographed at the state crime laboratory and then decently disposed of, so you
Yeah.
can't see them anymore.
I would want to.
I
That's
would.
gross,
God, can you
dude.
see? Dude, I hope they sold some of that shit.
No, that's
Yeah,
fucking
dude.
nasty.
What for a museum? They could do a crime
No,
museum.
that's
Why
gross.
not?
Because it's morbid. It's gross.
Exactly. It's morbid and
They
interesting.
can replicate it. They don't have to take the actual fucking.
No, why? I don't want a replication.
No,
No,
what?
I don't want a
No.
replica. I want the real thing. When questioned, Gein told investigators that between 1947 and 1952, he had made 40 nocturnal visits to 3 local cemeteries to exhume recently buried bodies, while he was in a daze-like state.
Mm.
On about 30 of those visits, he said that he came out of the daze while in the cemetery, left the graveyard in a good order, and returned home empty-handed. On the other occasions, he dug up the graves of recently buried middle-aged women he thought resembled his mother,
Mm-hmm.
and took the bodies home, where he tanned their skins and made his paraphernalia. Gein admitted to stealing from 9 graves from local cemeteries and led investigators to the location. Alan Wemthinsky of the State Crime Laboratory participated in opening 3 test graves identified by Gein. The caskets were wooden boxes. The tops ran crossways, not lengthwise. The tops of the boxes were about 2 feet in diameter below the surface, or 2 feet below the surface of the sandy soil. Gein had robbed the graves soon after the funerals while the graves were not even completed yet.
Jeez.
The test graves were exhumed because the authorities were uncertain as whether the slight Gein was capable of single-handedly digging up a grave during a single evening. They were found as Gein described. 2 of the exhumed graves were found empty. One had a crowbar in place of the body.
Wow.
He put a crowbar there to like equivocal exchange, I guess.
Yeah.
One casket was one casket Gein had failed to open when he lost his pry bar, which was in one of the graves.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and the body was gone from the third grave. Yet Gein had returned rings and some body parts. Thus, Gein's confession was largely corroborated because
Right.
so he like
He
basically
probably
did
did
what he
do it,
said.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Soon after his mother's death, Gein began to create a woman suit,
Ew.
which comes from Silence of the Lambs'
Yeah.
Buffalo Bill.
Yeah.
Uh, so he could become his mother to literally crawl into her skin.
That's fucking weird.
Geen denied having sex with the bodies he exhumed, explaining they smelled too bad. During state crime laboratory
That's his only explanation,
interrogation,
though, is that
yeah,
they smell too bad.
Geen also admitted to shooting Mary Hogan, a tavern owner missing since 1954, whose head they found in his house, but later denied memory of details of her death.
Yeah. So it sounds like he started out doing the grave robbing thing, and then I guess figured that it would be better for him if he got like a fresh one.
Yeah.
So he started killing people.
Hmm. A 16-year-old youth whose parents were friends of Geen and who attended ball games and movies with him reported that Geen kept shrunken heads in his house, which Geen had described as relics from the Philippines,
Hmm.
sent by a cousin who had served on the islands during World War II.
Yeah.
Upon investigation by the police, these were determined to be human facial skins,
Yeah.
carefully peeled from corpses and used by Geen as masks.
It's disgusting.
Gein also considered a suspect in several other unsolved cases in Wisconsin, including 1953 disappearance of Evelyn Hartley, a lacrosse babysitter.
Yeah. Some killers are notorious for how many people they've killed. Some of them are notorious by how long they took to get caught, and then
Mhm.
some of them are notorious just because of the way that they kill people or what they did afterwards.
Yeah.
In Gein's case, it's not the fact that
And
he killed a bunch of people; it's the disgusting shit that he would do with dead bodies.
yeah, absolutely. The trial was on November 21st, 1957. Gein was arraigned on one count of first degree murder in Washtenaw County Court, where he pleaded not guilty by reason of insanity.
Sounds like he might have been insane.
Yeah. Gein was diagnosed with schizophrenia and was found mentally incompetent, thus unfit for trial. He
Mm,
was sent to the Central State Hospital for the Criminally Insane,
right.
now the Dodge Correctional Institution,
Nice.
a maximum security facility in Waupun, Wisconsin, and later transferred to Mendota State Hospital in Madison, Wisconsin.
So he spent the rest of his life in like a psych
Oh yeah,
ward.
people have this misconception that if you are found not guilty by reason of insanity, you
Mm.
get set free.
No,
No, you go to a
no.
hospital,
Yeah, if they determine like at the hospital that you're, I guess, rehabilitated, then they might let you out. I
or they'll
don't know how
send you
that
to
works,
jail.
or you go to jail.
Yeah,
Yeah, to finish out your.
yeah, because people will fake being insane. They're like, "Oh, I'm just gonna be better in a week,"
Yeah,
and then
it doesn't work that
they
way.
go to
Yeah,
jail.
that's not how that works.
In 1968, doctors determined Gein was mentally able to confer with counsel and participate in his defense. So from 1957 to 1968, he was in a hospital. But as soon as they said, "Oh, you're mentally competent,"
Then
you go to trial.
yeah, and then after that,
Yeah. The trial began on November 7th, 1968, and lasted 1 week. A psychiatrist testified that Gein had told him that he did not know whether the killing of Bernice Warden was intentionally or accidental. Gein had told him that while he examined a gun in Warden's store and the gun went off, killing Warden. Gein testified that after trying to load a bullet into the rifle, it discharged. He said he had not aimed the rifle at Warden and did not remember anything else about what happened that morning. At the request of the defense, Gein's trial was held without a jury,
mm,
with Judge Robert H. Gilmore presiding. Gein was found guilty by Gilmore on November 14th. A second trial dealt with Gein's sanity. After testimony by doctors from the prosecution of the defense, Gilmore ruled Gein not guilty by reason of insanity and ordered him to be committed to the Central State Hospital for the criminally insane. Gein spent the rest of his life in the mental hospital.
yeah,
Judge Gomar wrote, due to the prohibitive cost, Gein was tried for only one murder, that of Mrs. Warden. He also admitted to killing Mary Hogan.
hmm. Wonder if he said that was an accident
So,
or not. Too.
what do you think happened to the Gein's residence? Because it would be
Um,
a popular tourist
it
attraction.
probably got
Even back
demolished.
then,
Yeah,
it was
yeah.
people. people are like, "Oh, why true crime now? Like,
Yeah.
why are we talking about now?" No,
Yeah.
back then it was like huge.
Yeah.
We talked about it with the Villisca axe murders.
Yeah.
Like they went from miles and miles away. They
Yeah.
came and visited.
And
So
any kind of big public trial too, like Bundy's trial, stuff like that, shows how much people
yeah, so
lap
it's
that stuff up.
like
But
they were more into it
I think they
back
probably
then.
demolished it.
All right, well let's find out. Gein's house and 195 acres property was appraised at $4,700, equivalent to $48,000 here.
Hmm.
Now,
Right.
that is not a, that is why don't do 159 acres, dude? Like,
Yeah.
yeah, no,
Yeah.
I don't. I think it'd be worth a lot more than that. His possessions were scheduled to be auctioned on March 30th, 1958. Amidst rumors that the house and the land it stood on might become a tourist attraction, early on the morning of March 20th, the house was destroyed by a fire.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah,
so was it a
an arson.
an
The
arson?
deputy fire marshal reported that the garbage fire had been set 75 feet from the house by a cleaning crew who were
Oh,
given the task of disposing of the refuse.
yeah.
That hot coals were recovered from the spot on the bonfire, but the fire did not spread along the ground from the location to the house. Arson was suspected,
Yeah.
but the cause of fire was never officially determined. It was possible that the fire was not considered a matter of urgency by the chief, Frank
Yeah.
Warden, son of Bernice Warden, Gein's last victim.
Uh-huh. I wouldn't be too
Nope.
inclined either.
When Gein learned of the incident while in detention, he shrugged and said, "Just as well."
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, he
Yeah.
he
It's never gonna go
okay.
back.
He loved his mother, but hated her at the same time.
Yeah.
Like that's how narcissists are. Like
Yeah.
narcissists will make you love them, but you hate them for
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Gein's 1949 Ford sedan, which he used to haul the bodies from the victims, was sold to public auction for $760, equivalent to $7,700 now,
Wow.
to Carnival sideshow operator Bunny Gibbons. Gibbons charged carnival goers 25 cents admission to see it.
Wow. Yeah. Sounds about right.
Yeah. Gein died at the Mendota Mental Health Institute due to respiratory failure secondary to lung cancer
Hmm.
on July 26, 1984, at the age of 77 years old.
Wow.
Over the years, souvenir seekers chipped pieces from the gravestone at the Plainfield Cemetery until the stone itself was stolen in 2000.
Wow.
It
Just
was,
took the whole
yeah,
thing.
it took the whole thing. It was recovered in 2001 near Seattle, Washington, and was placed in storage at the Worcester County Sheriff's Department.
Hmm.
The gravesite itself is now unmarked, but not unknown. Gein is interred between his parents and brother in the cemetery.
If I were his
Yeah,
brother and I was killed by him, I'd be mad as hell at sitting wherever I was sitting at. I'd be like, you mother.
yeah, I know for real. Okay, so let's get into the movies because that's the most important thing. What did he inspire?
Well, we knew Psycho.
Yeah,
We knew Texas
Psycho,
Chainsaw Massacre.
Psycho, Deranged, and
Yeah.
The Light of the Moon, and then also Ed Gein, the Butcher of Plainfield, Ed
Yeah.
Gein, the musical, Rob Zombie.
And they made a
Yeah.
musical?
Yeah. Rob Zombie's House of a Thousand Corpses
Yeah.
and The Devil's Rejects,
Yeah.
and also the third one, Three to Go to Hell. Let's see, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Buffalo Bill,
Yeah.
Garland Green from Con Air.
Uh-huh.
So, and also Dr. Oliver Thedson from American Horror Story Asylum.
Yeah.
Yep. So basically, that's a lot, dude. That is a
Hmm.
whole lot of
There's games
thing.
too. That's just going into movies, not even going into TV shows, books, or
Yeah.
games.
Oh yeah, there's so many, but his nicknames are Butcher of Plainfield
Hmm.
or the Plainfield Ghoul.
That one's pretty fitting because
Yeah,
ghouls are grave
yeah,
robbers.
yeah, absolutely. So he murdered two confirmed. That's confirmed.
Yeah.
Seven are suspected and nine corpses mutilated.
Right.
So he's nine desecrated graves and mutilated
He's only
corpses,
admitted to two.
and he's only admitted two, but they think that he
He killed
killed nine.
seven. Oh, nine.
Yeah.
9 total.
Yeah, he's been two confirmed, seven were
7
suspected.
possible. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean that is, and his span of crimes is 1947 and 1957.
Right.
So I mean, what do you think of Ed Gein? Do you think that his legacy with the movies and shit? Do you think that's accurate? Do you think it like he? Do you think like all of these villains in these movies?
No.
Do you think it's warranted that they be covered? Because I don't think he was that bad.
Well, my opinion is just a dude that had mental health issues that was fucked up by his mom and probably by his dad too. And just he didn't get the help that he needed. He ended up messed up in the
He,
head
I
and
don't know if he had schizophrenia though, because back then, blanketed schizophrenia was a blanketed term.
yeah,
Like now it's more nuanced.
yeah,
It's you have schizophrenia. He could have borderline personality disorder, and they would have been like, "Oh, you have schizophrenia."
right, right,
Back then, it was either schizophrenia or split personality disorder. That's it. That's all they diagnosed you with.
yeah.
And so I think that he might not have had
I don't
schizophrenia.
think it was just a dude that had mental health issues that I mean, it's sad and messed up. Obviously, I don't think he should have been free or anything like that,
No.
but I think that him ending up in a mental health
Do you
hospital for
do
the
you
rest of
think
his
he
life.
accidentally killed?
No, I think he probably really killed, like, he did it
No.
on purpose.
Yeah.
Um, I think the story of him loading the gun and it accidentally going off is bullshit.
Yeah.
Um, but who
He
knows?
probably I don't know because let's say that he did have a split personality or schizophrenic. He could have like stepped outside of himself because there's a lot of incidences with mental breaks that you do that. You
Mm,
step outside of yourself and then you watch yourself do it,
yeah,
but you're like, I don't want to do this.
yeah. I'm sure that's how a lot of serial killers
Yeah.
work, but
But I mean, he legit, I mean, he probably literally loaded the gun,
yeah,
shot her.
yeah.
And because Mary, he didn't talk about Mary and why he killed, he couldn't remember.
Hmm.
But like, how did he kill her? Like,
Yeah.
wasn't an accident? There was no, oh, I was loading the gun and I accidentally went off.
Yeah.
So, and
He-
he killed her before.
Yeah.
So I think that I think he was running out of fresh corpses
Yeah.
and he needed to finish his suit.
Yeah. He wanted to finish it, and instead of going to the graveyard, he figured he'd just.
Well, it was a lot of work. I mean, it was easier to
Well,
get
it's
fresh
that, and
meat.
there's only so many he could dig up before it started. Eventually, would have been noticed.
Well, my thing is he didn't have sex with the exhumed bodies because they smelled too bad. But what about the freshly killed ones?
Yeah.
He might have been like, "Oh, I want to have sex with these. It smells too bad, uh, but these are fresh.
Yeah.
Like they don't smell yet. So it takes a few days for them to smell.
Gross.
Yeah, I mean, there's a specific time period
No.
where necrophiliacs
No.
say, and there it really is. They brought it down to a science about
Oh.
when it's too late to have sex with a body. Oh god, it's 5 days. So after 5 days, they said that the smell gets too bad.
Whole thing's nasty.
Yeah, I mean, but there's don't like there's probably morticians out there and coroners that
I guarantee
are
you there are. I'm sure
necrophiliacs.
there's news stories that they've actually
Oh,
been
dude,
caught doing that.
there's so many. We could do a whole episode about that. There's so many people that do this and stuff. But yeah, Ed Gein, man, they weird guy. Do you know how they got him to confess?
No.
They offered him a food,
Uh,
apple pie with cheese melted on it.
I heard that was like a whole way of eating it was with cheese. Like that was like the original way it was intended to be eaten or something
Dude,
like
that's
that.
gross.
Yeah.
That is gross.
Yeah.
I mean, I love cheese and I love apple
I've
pie
never tried
put
it, so I'm not
together.
gonna say it's gross or not. I mean, it sounds like it probably wouldn't be very appealing, but you never know. Some things go together that shouldn't.
I've heard apple pie and ice cream.
Yeah,
That's
but
good.
that's yeah.
But yeah, that's
They call that a la mode.
quite gross. If you guys, uh, if when you guys are listening, if you pick up echoes and stuff, it's because we're in a different space, recording space, um, until we can find a new studio. But we appreciate you guys sticking with us and listening. And we're working on the audio and everything, trying to get the echo down.
Right.
But yep, we appreciate you guys listening. Follow that link. You can get some merch, cool T-shirts and stuff, and hoodies. And our Patreon's just $1 a month to get some episodes. Amityville Horror episode will be out soon. I would say in a couple months. But there are some other episodes. Our episode on Adam Walsh is on there. It's a good episode. I mean, we really dive into that crime.
Yeah.
So, all right, guys, we'll see you next week for a new episode.